Hey guys, welcome back. This is Anthony with Embrace Tutoring and Educational Services, and for this video we're going to be focusing on the SAT Practice Test 1 Math Section 4, specifically questions 11 through 20. So we're going to get started with question 11. It says, which of the following numbers is not a solution of the inequality 3x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 4x minus 3? There's a couple different ways to solve this, including actually solving the inequality here, or being able to plug in the answer choices. Since the inequality is fairly simplistic, I'm actually going to take the inequality and attempt to plug it in. So here I have my 3x minus 5 is greater than or equal to my 4x minus 3. I'm going to subtract my 3x from both sides. What this will end up canceling my 3x. I then have negative 5 is greater than or equal to x minus 3. I'm then going to add the plus 3 on both sides here. So plus 3. What I end up getting then is negative 2 is greater than or equal to x. So this is what my inequality works. So I'm going to look back up at my answer choices, and I want to try and figure out which of these answer choices does not fit within my inequality. And A is your best possible answer. Okay, problem 12 states, based on the histogram above, of the following, which is closest to the average or mean of the number of apples per seed? So what I want to know in order to solve the actual mean of everything is I want to know what are my total seeds all together over what are my total apples. Now I know my total apples already. My total apples are going to be 12 altogether. So I want to equals my total seeds over my total apples. So here I have 12. I could also look here, right, number of apples. My total number of apples here are going to be 2. My total apples number here are going to be 4. My total number of apples here are going to be 1, right? Then I have 2 and I have 3. But to save some time, they're giving that to you in terms of 12 apples. Now, they're also asking you what is the total amount of seeds. So if I were trying to figure out what are the total amount of seeds, I also need to think about what is the total amount of seeds per apples. So here I have 2 apples, but each of which has 3 seeds. So I'm going to have 6 total seeds according to this column. I'm going to have 5 seeds per apple, so I'm going to have 20 total seeds, or 20 total seeds according to this column. Right, 6 times 1, this is going to be 6. And here I have my 7 times 2 is going to be 14. 9 times 3 is going to be 27. If I were to add all of these together, I would then get my total amount of seeds. So if I did 6 plus 20 plus 6 plus 14 plus 27, I would end up getting, I want to say it's 73. Yes, so 6 plus 20 plus 6 plus 14 plus 27 is 73. If I were to divide then 73 divided by 12, I'm going to look for something the closest to that. So plug it into my calculator, I end up getting 6.08. And therefore C is going to be my best possible answer choice. 15 is stating, a group of 10th grade students responded to a survey that asked which math course they were currently enrolled in. The survey data were broken down as shown in the table above. Which of the following categories accounts for approximately 19% of all survey respondents? Okay, so this is very important to me because this is going to be the total of everybody that filled out a survey. And 19% is what I'm attempting to figure out, 19% of this number. So really what I need to know is this is 19% of all survey respondents, which I don't know yet. I'm going to take a quick glance at the table. Here's my total. Here's my total. Okay, so of all survey respondents, I have 310. Now, 19%, in order to figure out what is 19% of 310, I'm going to take 0.19 and I'm going to multiply that by 310. I'm then going to get a value, let's plug that in the calculator, 0.19 times 310. I then get approximately 58.9, which is going to give me somewhere in the range, I would say probably 59 or 58 or 59. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look back at my table to see which of these, okay, so here I have, right, there's my 59. So this is implying males who are currently taking geometry is the math course. Seems as though, yep, there's the math course that they're currently enrolled in. So Males taking geometry, C is my best possible answer. Scroll down to question 14, lengths of fish in inches. It says, the table above lists the lengths to the nearest inch of a random sample of 21 total bullhead fish. The outlier measurement of 24 inches is an error of the mean, median, and range of the values listed. Which will change the most if the 24-inch measurement is removed from the data? Now, this is actually a pretty complicated question, but let's attempt to use some arithmetic in order to save some time. Now, 24 is an outlier number, meaning that it's going to be an error within the data. If we were to remove that 24, what would happen to the data is what the question is really asking you, based upon the mean, the median, and the range. Well, the mean, remember, is the average of everything that you have here. So we'll even quickly write as a general review. The mean is going to be the average. The median is going to be, what is the middle number? Right? What's the middle number in this data set? The range is simply going to be the highest minus the lowest, right? So the range is, let's say, high minus low. If my range was 24 minus 8, right? This was let's say this is my previous range. So we'll even label this as range 1, right? 24 minus 8, then that's going to be 16. But my range 2 here is going to be, if I remove the 24, is going to be 16 minus 8. So my new range is going to be 8, which means the difference here is going to be an 8-unit difference altogether. Now, the reason why I started with the range first is because I'm noticing that the data set is actually pretty clustered. I see 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, 12, 13, 13, 13. I'm noticing that almost 50% of the data set is really evolving around 12 in some way, whether that's the middle or even really the average. So if I was going to test this out, my initial thought process was, well, nothing is really going to jump 8 units, right? If I get rid of the 24 here overall. But we can definitely test out the other ones, that way and kind of demonstrate to you what it's going to be. Yeah, obviously you can tell that with the 12, so many 12s right here in the middle, regardless if you get rid of the 24, the middle number is still going to be somewhere in this section, right? The middle number is still going to be within the 12. So if we did, let's say that we had our median 1, the middle number is still going to be approximately 12, right? Versus median 2, right? The middle number is still going to be around 12. And you're more than welcome to test that out. That way you guys can see it to be more precise. The mean is something a lot of you guys will actually end up doing, and which will cost you time if you don't recognize it. But your mean 1, if you were to add up all of these numbers, including the 24, if you were to add everything up, is going to be 262 divided by 21. So the 262 divided by 21 is going to be 12.5. That's your initial mean. Now, if I were to remove the 24, let's say my mean 2, if I were to remove everything, that's going to be your 262 minus your 24, right? Because I'm subtracting that out of the data set. And remember, as opposed to 21, and they told you initially how many you started with to save some time, now I'm only going to have 20 numbers out of my data set. So 262 minus 24 over 20, plug that in my calculator. My new mean is going to be 11.9. Notice this difference is not 8. Right? The greatest number, or the greatest piece of information that's going to have an effect when you remove that 24 out of the data set, so which will change the most if the 24-inch measurement is removed from the data, is definitely going to be the range. They obviously are not going to be affected the same, so D is not going to be the best possible answer. The median is going to be relatively 12 initially, and 12 even after the 24 has been removed. And the average is not even, it's not even completely decreasing a full point. Right? Many of you will end up doing this, but you attempt to use arithmetic to try and save some time, and that would be best for you on the actual test day. We have a graph problem, or data analysis. It says here the total cost of renting a boat by the hour. It says the graph above displays the total cost C in dollars of renting a boat. I do care the fact that we're talking about dollars And C is also going to be represented here by the y-axis. So I'm going to slide down a little bit further to get a better idea of what exactly they want me to get out of this graph and let the question guide me back to the graph. What does the C-intercept represent in the graph? Well, really, when you're thinking about the C-intercept, knowing that this is y over here, then the intercept is going to be, well, what happens when x equals 0 on the graph, right? When x equals 0, what is going to be y? Right? Because when you're thinking of the C-intercept, most commonly, many of you will refer to as the y-intercept. Right? Most of you will be familiar with that terminology. But the y-intercept, remember, is that when x equals 0, what will y equal overall? Also notice that C is in dollars, right? So it's going to be something affiliated with cost or expense, or perhaps business terminology may come into play. So I'm going to look at T, right, for time on my x-axis here, represented by H in terms of hours. And then I have total cost here on my y-axis. Now, when x is 0, or when H equals 0, right, then I still know that I have something, right? So that's 5. Now, why would y, or in this case, why would it equal 5 when x equals 0? Well, there's got to be some sort of cost to it, because this is actually really $5, right? So the best logical explanation when they're talking about, also let's not overthink this too much, the actual title of the graph is total cost of renting a boat by the hour. So if I were to slide back down, right, we're trying to think to ourselves, let me clear this, we're trying to think to ourselves, well, why do I have to pay $5 even if I don't take the boat out at all? And the most logical explanation is that there's an initial cost of renting the boat, right? So the initial cost of renting the boat is it's just your flat rate, or your flat fee is most commonly how it would be referred to. Okay, so A is going to be the best possible answer for 15. Okay, question 16 is asking you, which of the following represents the relationship between H and C? I see that H is going to be my x-axis, and I see C is going to be my y-axis. So really what it's mentioning here is what is going to be the relationship between C and H, and that relationship is going to be signified here by the slope. Now, to save you some time, really you can put this in the traditional y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept form. Your b you've already solved for before, which is your positive 5. Notice here it's a positive 5, it's not a negative value. Right? When you figured out what your c-intercept was, when h equals 0, what is the value of y, right? When h equals 0, or when x equals 0, what is the value of y? So you know it's not going to be A. You also know it's not going to be D, because you're going to need your positive 5 there for that slope-intercept form. When you do y equals mx plus b, then this is the real trick. You're going to want to figure out the slope. And as we mentioned in the previous videos, a lot of you will attempt to do the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But for all intents and purposes on the SAT, especially when they end up giving you your table or graph, try not to do this. And it's just going to cost you a little bit too much time. The best way to do it is actually to do the rise over run method, which means that you can count the amount of spaces. And most likely, it's going to be 3/4 or 3, given the possible answer choices. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to start with my intercept, and I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here I've gone 3 to go to the next dot. That's the whole goal here. I'm trying to figure out what is the slope of between these 2 points. So I'm going to count up 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 units. Now I'm going to go over, but notice I'm going to go over 4 boxes. But I would probably say the biggest misconception here is that you're only going to go over 1 unit. So although I'm going over 4 boxes, which is probably why they have that 4 there within the fraction, I'm only going to go over 1 unit. So I'm going to go up 3, and I'm going to go over 1. So if I go up 3 and if I go over 1, then my slope, or my rise over my run, is going to be 3 over 1, which is going to equal 3. So my overall equation should look something like y equals 3h plus 5. The reason for this is that h is representing, right, the x, 3 is representing my slope, and 5 is representing my intercept. So C is going to be your best possible answer. Okay, we're making pretty good progress. Move things along and slide down a little bit. Okay, so here I see I have another graphing problem, and it looks as though they give me some sort of f of x equation. Okay, I see various points. Good. The complete graph of the function f is shown in the xy plane above. For what value of x is the value of f of x at its minimum? Okay, so they gave me a hint. Whenever it says f of x, really what I'm referring to is y. Now, what this is saying is, when is y lowest within my actual graph here that's illustrated? So they want to know what is the lowest y point that they have, or what is the lowest y dot, so to speak, or data point. And it's going to be this value here, right? That's when y is the lowest if we know that y is really referring to kind of up and down. So y is going to be the lowest here. And if I were to count these out, knowing that this is 1 and this is 1, this appears to be -3 and -2, right? If I were to count these out. So if I did the little marks here, and then 1, right, 2, 3, yep. Okay, so here's -3, right? 1, 2, 3. There's -3, and then y is going to be -2. So my x is going to be -3. And my y is going to be -2. So I see here that my y is lowest at -2, but it asks for what value of x is the value of f of x at its minimum. So what value of x? It wants to know what is x when y is at the minimum. So don't choose C, which seems tempting because you would then be telling them what y is at its minimum, but they want to know what x is when y is at its minimum. B is actually going to be your best possible answer. Problem 18 states, in the xy plane, if 0, 0 is a solution to the system of inequalities above, which of the following relationships between A and B must be true? Now notice that 0, 0 is a solution. So that means that 0, 0 written in this notation is representing that x and y can both be equal, right, to 0. So if I were to take x and y for x equals 0 and y equals 0 and actually plug them in to the inequality above, that might better be able to describe the relationship between A and B, because I'm noticing that in the first equation I have A and in the second equation I have B. So let's do that. Let's take my y is less than -x plus A, and I'm going to take 0, right, is less than 0 plus A. And what I get out of this equation is that A is greater than 0, right? On my second equation, I get y is greater than x plus b. Well, if I plugged my 0 in for here, right? So 0 is greater than 0 plus b, and then I get, well, b is then going to be less than 0. So if A is greater than 0, right? A is greater than 0, but b is actually going to be less than 0 written in this notation. What I can tell, I'm looking up here, well then A is going to be your best possible answer, because A must be greater than B. If A is greater than 0 and B is less than 0, then A therefore needs to be greater than B, and A is going to be your best possible answer for 18. 19 says a food truck sells salads for $6.50 each and drinks for $2 each. The food truck's revenue from selling a total of 209 salads and drinks in one day was $836.50. How many salads were sold that day? So I know eventually I want to be able to solve for the number of salads. And it seems as though through the word equation, they're actually giving me two separate equations. And the first equation would be $6.50 for each salad. And it based upon the fact that it says it's end, right? Salads and drinks in one day, I know that this is going to be a plus sign. So I have $6.50 S plus $2 for D. And then this is then going to be my total revenue. So the food truck's revenue from selling a total of 209 salads and drinks in one day was $836, $836.50. And and I'm under the understanding that I have a total of 209 salads and drinks in that same day. So my first equation is 650S plus $2D equals 836.50. And my second equation is going to be S plus D equals 209. So this is kind of my money amount, and this is my quantity amount, or my total. And the whole goal is to actually be able to solve for S. So the idea is that I want to be able to figure out a way to solve for S by eliminating D. If I can eliminate D, I save a lot of time rather than doing it the reverse. And the best way to eliminate D is to take the bottom equation here and multiply that by 2. But first I'm going to stack the equation, make it a little bit neater for you. So that way it's 650S plus $2D, right? 2D equals, let's say it's 836.50. Now I'm going to take my bottom equation and I'm going to distribute the 2 through. And I'm going to get 2S plus 2D equals, well, what's 2 times 209? That would be 418. So now I have my 2S plus 2D equals 418. And the whole reason why I took that bottom equation and multiply it by 2 is because I wanted to be able to do this, right? So if I subtract the bottom equation from the top equation, or if I take the top equation minus the bottom equation, then I'm going to end up getting, right, I would take the 2D minus the 2D, I would get rid of those. And then I end up getting 6.5S minus 2S, I end up getting 4.5S equals, well, what's 836.50 minus 418? You'll notice that 836, 418, right, that's half of that with 50 cents remaining. So I'm going to get my 418.50. Right, my 418.50 equals my 4.5S. Now, in order to get S by itself, right, which is the goal, right, how many salads were sold that day, I then want to divide both sides by 4.5, and I'm going to divide this side here also by 4.5. I'm isolating this off for S, and when plugging this into my calculator, I'm going to get S equals 93 salads. So that should be a possible answer choice, and it is. B is your best possible answer, and we're going to keep moving on. For problem 20, it says, Alma bought a laptop computer at a store that gave a 20% discount off its original price. The total amount she paid to the cashier was P dollars, including 8% sales tax on the discounted price. Which of the following represents the original price of the computer in terms of P? So what I really care about is trying to figure out what is the original price of the computer in terms of P. Now remember that P is what she paid overall. So the original price is going to be essentially 100% of the original value. But P is what she's paying altogether. So she's going to be paying something based upon the original price of that value. And the 20% discount is going to signify the fact that she's going to have 80% remaining out of that. So if I have a 20% discount, that means that I have 80% remaining from that value, right? 80% remaining of my original price. And vice versa, here if I have an 8% sales tax on the discounted price, that means that I'm going to have an 8% increase on the original price. And remember, the original price we're stating is 100%. So whenever you have an increase in some way, represented by increase or annual income or right percentage sales tax, right, some sort of percentage increase, you're going to add that percentage increase overall. So this is going to be then 108% is what is going to be reflective of the actual tax. And that 108% is going to be of the original price. But you generally don't write it in percentages here. You're going to write it down in 1.08, which is where these numbers are coming from here. And then the other, for the 20% discount, you're going to have 80% remaining of the original price, right? So 80% remaining of the original price is what it's going to be reflecting. So this is reflecting the discount, and the tax is representing the increase. So here I'd have 0.8 within my answer, but I'd also have 1.08 within my answer. So if my original price is taking into account the 100% of the original value, P is what she's paying, she's going to then pay 0.8 of that original price and include a sales tax of those things. So this is your tax of your 8% sales tax, and here your 0.8 is going to be represented by your 20% discount. The OP is representing your original price, and P is representing the total amount that she paid. But it asks you, what is the original price in terms of P? Meaning that I need to divide, right, in order to get original price by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.80, right, as well as 1.08, right? And then I'm going to cross those out. And then I'm going to divide this side as well by 0.8, as well as the 1.08. So I should see here that these should appear within a fraction form as well as within the denominator when solving for my original price. And D is going to be your best possible answer for that. Okay, stay tuned for future videos. Feel free to reach out in the comment section below. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to go into any of the questions in more detail. Just feel free to ask.